Hi, everybody. It's an amazing day in America. It's a rebirth of America. Yesterday's inauguration of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris was wonderful. I cried all day long. The crying was happy tears. It was tears of relief, tears of the fact that we don't have Trump to deal with. Our country can move forward. And there's so many positive things that just happened yesterday, just on their first day. So let's get started. Inauguration was an amazing inauguration. Everything that happened yesterday was just amazing. It was just pitch perfect for what the country needs. Our forecast, a little rain, a little bit, but it's been nice. It's been nice ever since I came back from Hawaii. Hey, look, looks like there might be a little snow next Tuesday. As you know, yesterday, President Biden went to work immediately. He went to the Oval Office and he signed, I believe, 17 executive orders. Everything um, from rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, eliminating the Muslim travel ban from the you-know-what countries, everything dealing with COVID. And here's one that maybe did not get a lot of publicity, but President Biden issued the most substantive, wide-ranging LGBTQ executive order in his history. This is from the Human Rights Campaign, the organization that advocates for LGBTQ rights in the nation's capitals. So Biden's executive order is the most substantive, wide-ranging executive order concerning sexual orientation and gender identity ever issued by a U.S. president. So millions of Americans can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that their president, their government believe discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity is not only intolerable, but most importantly, illegal. By fully implementing Supreme Court historic ruling in Bostock, the federal government will enforce federal law to protect LGBTQ people from discrimination in employment, healthcare, housing, education, and other cares of life. This is amazing. So this is equivalent to the Equal Rights Act for LGBT that still hasn't been passed, but this is amazing. So here's a recap of what happened yesterday. I thought, looking through the different summaries, I thought the PBS NewsHour, our famous source, would be the best recap of what happened yesterday.
This day has seen the inauguration of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. as the 46th President of the United States. He was sworn in today to lead the nation into the post-Trump era, facing the worst public health crisis in a century and deep political divisions. And Vice President Kamala Harris, the first woman, first Black, and first Asian to serve in that role, was sworn in on this historic day. John Yang begins our coverage.
Today's was an inauguration unlike any other before. Missing were the usual crowds, banished due to concerns about security and the pandemic, and replaced on the National Mall by 200,000 flags. Taking the oath as vice president,
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
The first woman and first woman of color. And the oldest person ever elected to the nation's highest office took the presidential oath.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
Mr. Biden used the family Bible, on which he had twice taken the vice presidential oath and 7 times as senator.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Standing in front of the U.S. Capitol, still scarred by this month's deadly assault by a pro-Trump mob, the 46th president called for unity.
We've learned again that democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause.
He acknowledged that the task will not be easy.
We have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain. Few people in our nation's history have been more challenged or found a time more challenging or difficult than the time we're in now.
And he called for the nation's political discourse to change.
Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
Looking on, predecessors Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, with whom he served as vice president, and Mr. Biden's successor in that office, Mike Pence. The day's theme of America United was carried on by Amanda Gorman, at 22, the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history.
We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us.
On this day where we emphasize national unity,
The new president's entire day underscored that idea. From morning mass at St. Matthew's Cathedral with congressional leaders from both parties, to a military pass and review on the Capitol's East Front, and a wreath-laying ceremony with former Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama at Arlington National Cemetery's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. President Biden traveled through a city on high alert. More than 25,000 National Guard troops patrolled a downtown largely off limits to visitors and traffic. Coast Guard vessels kept watch on the Potomac River. Entering the White House for the first time as president, Mr. Biden quickly got down to business, signing 17 executive orders on issues ranging from the pandemic to climate change, and sending Congress his sweeping immigration bill.
great honor, the honor of a lifetime.
In his final hours as president, Donald Trump was busy too, issuing scores of commutations and pardons to allies.
Do you have any regrets about your presidency?
Mr. Trump left Washington this morning, the first time in more than 150 years an outgoing president skipped his successor's inaugural. He never spoke with his successor or even uttered his name in public. Mr. Trump did follow one tradition, leaving a handwritten Oval Office note for his successor. Addressing supporters at Andrews Air Force Base, Mr. Trump pledged to be back in some form.
I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success.
President Trump arrived at his Mar-a-Lago resort in South Florida before his successor was sworn in. In Washington, President Biden settled in at the White House, where the challenges of the pandemic, the wounded economy, a polarized nation, and crises yet to come lie ahead. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.
That was a great summary of yesterday. So I want to highlight a couple things from yesterday. Lady Gaga, don't you love her dress? Lady Gaga did the national anthem. She was amazing. And also a amazing rising star, inaugural poet Amanda Gorman delivers a great poem. I mean, her words were amazing. She is 22 years old. A great story. She was raised by a single mother. I mean, she is a rock star. So let's listen to Lady Gaga and Amanda Gorman.
Ladies and gentlemen, here for the singing of our national anthem, accompanied by the President's own United States Marine Band, please welcome Lady Gaga.
those broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Saved us that star-spangled banner yet wave on the land of the free and the home of the
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
That was amazing. Amanda Gorman. So I don't know if you heard, but basically after what her poetry reading yesterday at the inauguration, she became, because I guess she has two poetry books on Amazon, and she soared to the #1 bestseller list because of this. So good for her. Good for her. She's an amazing woman, and she's only 22. Look forward to more things from her, Amanda Gorman. So I'm gonna do a bunch of trailers here. There's a list of best documentaries on HBO Max. I know I always promote HBO Max. Again, it's really cheap. It's $15 a month. You can have 3 streams, and so if you get 2 other friends to do it, it's only $5 a month, which is fucking cheap. Okay. Baltimore Rising, which Black Lives Matters, right? This happened back in this happened throughout the number of years. Freddie Gray was arrested, and he was arrested and he was mistreated by the police, and he died in the hands of the Baltimore police. This was a great documentary on Baltimore Rising 2017. A great classic documentary by our famous guy, Michael Moore, about Bowling for Columbine, about, guns and gun control. A really serious documentary, Crisis of Syria, about the whole Syrian war, Balashir, and what's happening there. Something on the latter part, one of my favorites, Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. Unfortunately, Anthony, it is very tragic. He had probably the best job in the world, right? So he was paid to go around the world to different cities, and his producers would arrange for like the local food critic to take him to the best restaurants in that particular city. He did that. Unfortunately, he had depression. I can relate to that because I've had depression in my life, and depression is very rarely debilitating, and people don't understand that if you don't have depression. So you can you can imagine that someone with his job, like I said, the most amazing job in the world, and he committed suicide. He committed suicide last year in May in Paris. He hanged himself in a Paris hotel room. And so he had a wife, he had a daughter, so he had people in his life that he cared for. But unfortunately, the depression overcame him, which is unfortunate. So my only advice to everyone listening to this broadcast is that please reach out to people that you may seem to be disconnected. The warning signs are if they're disconnected from social media, well, you could be for other reasons. If you're disconnected from social media, check in on them. And the thing about it, like when I was depressed, I had a couple friends of mine, Lucas Dickey and Todd Stewart. Don't just take, oh, I'm okay for an answer. They dug deeply, said, Ernie, wait, let me know about you. What are you doing? Are you seeing a therapist? Are you taking any antidepressants? Are you, all these things. So dig deeper. Don't just take their answer of, I'm okay, and just leave it as that. You could save it. You could. Believe me, I know. Also, I met this woman. She's a lunch lady. My ex-partner, Chris Tran, he introduced me to the lunch lady. I actually went to this particular stand, and he actually published a book for her. And if you want the book, I will send it to you via email if you want. It's in a PDF format. I won't charge you. Well, wait, I would charge you for a donation to like Northwest Harvest. Okay, I'll do that. $10 a book, donation to Northwest Harvest. Okay. The Lunch Lady recipes. Okay. Amazing.
Freddie Gray, a young man arrested by Baltimore City Police last weekend, has died.
The Freddie Gray incident wasn't the cause of the uprising. It was just probably that last straw that broke the camel back. After decades of crying out.
What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now!
History will one day look back and identify this year to define when American policing began to change.
I mean, something at that moment like snapped inside of me. It was just like, I can't just sit on the sideline. And that's what this is about.
I want you and Fox News to get out of Baltimore City because you're not here reporting about the boarded up homes. You're not reporting about the poverty levels, but you're here for the black riots.
I'm not an organizer. I wasn't a protester before any of this happened. I'm learning as I go.
We're in a community where it's underserved and over-policed. We're tired of getting out of the cars and just hatred being spewed.
You're not letting me in.
We gotta keep looking over our heads and ducking bottles.
I have at least some idea what it means when we say Black Lives Matter because I know what Black death feels like. That's why this movement has taken on so much more meaning for me.
Give me the law that I break it.
Wait a minute. Are you still representing Kwame? He just got arrested. I wish I was kidding.
My interest on behalf of the city right now is surviving this moment. We can't get through this without you guys.
There's been a great awakening. It almost took this uprising to wake us up.
Despite her success in creating facade of safety for us,
facade of safety, really? You had a very, very good childhood.
Mom, oh my God.
You got a whole lot of living to do. Don't ruin your future with that bullshit. I want you to be smart, not just for Baltimore, but for Kwame.
It's not about what you do with your life, but it's about the legacy that you leave. Freddie Gray sparked a movement, an uprising inside of our minds. And the most powerful thing that we can do is keep fighting for that.
He's Michael Moore, America's favorite whistleblower. The man in everyone's face. The guy asking the question, are we a nation of gun nuts or just plain nuts?
My name was second highest on the bomb threat list, which kind of made me mad.
Why? Because you didn't make it to number one?
It'd have been kind of like an ego thing there, knowing that I was number one at something.
I loves my gun. Loves my gun.
I'm here to open up an account.
Okay, what type of account?
I want the account where I can get the free gun.
You do a CD and we'll hand you a gun.
Well, here's my first question. Do you think it's a little dangerous handing out guns in a bank?
Now he's taking aim at America's most controversial subject.
Why do you think we have so many gun murders in America?
Because everybody's first reaction is pull the gun out.
The town of Virgin, Utah has passed a law requiring all residents to own guns.
This is a great place to raise your children.
There has been a terrible shooting. After Columbine, no one could figure out why the boys had resorted to violence.
Why would kids do this? You don't think kids say Dad goes off to the factory every day. He built missiles. What's the difference between that and the mass destruction at Columbine High School?
I guess I don't see that connection.
United Artists presents the sensation of the 2002 Cannes Film Festival and the only film to win a unanimous jury prize.
And then Moses himself showed up.
From my cold, dead hands.
10 days after the Columbine killing, Charlton Heston came to Denver and held a large pro-gun rally.
How could the NRA come here? To me, it's like they're rubbing their nose in it.
Mr. Heston, I'm a member of the NRA. I was wondering if maybe I could talk to you about the whole gun issue.
Critics are calling it scathing, incendiary, hilarious, and provocative.
Our children had turned into little monsters. But who was to blame?
What were the suspects doing the morning of attack? I'd heard that they were bowling.
Bowling for Columbine.
Why wasn't anyone blaming bowling for warping their minds?
A movie that will have you up in arms.
Thank you for not shooting me.
Syria is a very ancient and beautiful country. It's called the cradle of civilization. But we have been living under dictatorship for 40 years. But we were so optimistic that the revolution will sooner or later start in Syria. They wrote, "It's your turn, doctor," because Bashar al-Assad was trained as a doctor.
But anyone who talks about him, he will just disappear or he will die.
It was horrible. It started the revolution all over Syria. More than 500,000 people joined the demonstrations.
Our job is to save their life through destroying the terrorists.
We demonstrated holding roses, and he called us terrorists.
This regime, they are supposed to protect us, but they are not protecting us. They are shooting us.
فصرنا انه هاي الحرب فرضت علينا فرض. قطع مدرسة تدرس الطلاب.
في عالم ماتت النجوم، في عالم نامت ما فائد، في عالم نامت بدون ما تاكل.
وصل لمرحلة انه خلص شارف على السقوط، يعني ما عاد عنده قدرة يحمي اي منطقة من المناطق. هون اضطر يستعين بميليشيا طائفية عابرة للحدود.
When the Russians got involved, things are getting worse every day.
قالت انه رح تحارب داعش، وهي كذبة كبيرة، يمكن أكبر كذبة بتاريخ البشرية.
We Syrians are the people who are suffering the most from ISIS.
إنه ما ضل حدا بسوريا أو إنه ما طلعت.
وينامون بالشوارع وينامون بالحدائق، ليش؟ راحوا يبحثون على الأمان، راحوا ليعيشون أطفالهم يعيشون حياة كريمة. There is a group of people who give us hope, a group who are trying to save lives.
يعني أنا عند اللي شلتها حسبت إنه بنتي.
We are not terrorists. We are people like everyone in this world. And we still have dreams.
رجالكم وقفوا الحرب كتير. أنا إذا وقفتوه كتير يعني بشكركم.
I've been all over Vietnam, a place I feel a special connection to. My first love, a place I remain besotted with, fascinated by. So back in Vietnam, one of my favorite places on earth, and all of the things I need for happiness. Low plastic stool, check. Tiny little plastic table, check. Ooh, something delicious in a bowl, check. In this case, a local specialty, calm hen, clam rice, sweet, meaty little local clams out of their shells, tossed with a wild swirl of mung beans, white rice, spicy green chilies, crunchy roasted peanuts, fried pork rind, and cilantro. And a similar variation with rice noodles. got fish sauce with chilies in it, and whoa, that'll just singe your eyebrows off. Throw some chilies in. Hit with some hot clam broth, and you're on your way. I'm back in Vietnam. Eating grin for the duration. A giddy, silly, foolish man beyond caring. And a cold local beer. Huda, my preferred brand whenever in way. Clams with pork cracklings. How could that not be good? This is the way so many of the great meals of my life have been enjoyed. Sitting in the street, eating something out of a bowl that I'm not exactly sure what it is. Scooters going by. So delicious. I feel like an animal. Where have you been all my life? Fellow travelers, this is what you want. This is what you need. This is the path to true happiness and wisdom.
All right. Up next, the most iconic foodie collaboration in Saigon.
This woman, Madame Tan, goes to market. She comes back here, to this corner. Then it begins. She's known as the lunch lady. She's a legend.
Most street food vendors, I'm talking over 90%, get really good at making one thing and serving that one thing over and over, whether it's banh chat, pho, or papaya salad. The lunch lady is really good at making 7 things, one for each day of the week. What is on the menu today?
Hôm nay là mình có bánh canh cua. Mỗi món thì có một cái hương vị riêng và mỗi cái đặc biệt riêng. Như cái bánh canh cua này á, nó sẽ hòa quyện, nó cái cọng bánh canh thì nó sẽ dai dai. Ăn với cái nước bánh canh nó sẽ là sệt sệt.
She says what makes her banh canh cua so enticing to customers is the perfect combination of noodles, broth, pork, shrimp, crab, and quail egg. Yes, all those ingredients piled high for only $1.30. What kind of noodles are these?
You asked me, right?
Yeah.
All right. These are Thai surprise noodles. This is a little bit of tapioca and rice flours mixed together.
So right now, she's making a bunch of these. The broth is almost gone. When this broth is gone, is she done?
Yes.
Oh, all right, we gotta hurry up. Did he just order 2?
No, he's working for the place.
Oh, thank goodness. It's a lot of pressure here, guys. You gotta get here early for lunch. After the fat tapioca noodles are blanched, they're topped with pork sausage, pork belly, fresh herbs, fried onion, crab, even more protein, and some seasoning. It's now ready to be doused with her own thick, vibrant, crabby porky broth, made even more viscous with tapioca starch. Have you been here before?
Yes.
And you remember the food. Have you had this one here?
So I tried all types of noodles she had.
Anytime they make these dishes, it looks like kind of a little work of art. It looks so beautiful. And then, like, I'm destroying it. I'm ruining it. There's so much meat and stuff in here. I really can't believe it. He came here 9 years ago. What was the difference from before he was here to after the TV show appearance?
Thì trước đó thì cô bán thì tương đối khách thì cũng có cái lượng khách rồi.
She said like it was actually quite popular before Anthony wouldn't visit, but of course after his visit, she get more and more customers, especially international guests.
Were you surprised by the reaction?
Yeah.
Bourdain must have been here on a Friday because he sampled her bún bò Huế. But today is Saturday, and that means I'm about to dig into my first bite of banh canh cua. Let's try out the broth. Oh, that is yummy.
Good, right?
Thick, viscous, fatty, so savory. I'm not even messing around. Wow. And there's not much left. When that broth is gone, lunch is over. She just goes until she sells out. Let's talk about this gigantic amount of meat in here. There's a piece of sausage.
Yes.
I'm gonna try out some of this sausage. I'm gonna put it in the fish sauce. Here we go. Oh, I love this sausage. It's just some kind of like salty, processed, porky sausage. I mean, the pork, the noodles, everything, it works so well together. She's making this once a week, completely different every day, but still maintaining the quality, and that's what's really impressive.
Đối với cô, Anthony chết là một cái mất mát lớn, vì về ảnh coi như là một ân nhân đối với cô và cũng là một người bạn. Bởi vì khi anh qua Việt Nam á, thì anh không đến được á, có những lúc anh cũng gửi lời hỏi đến cô mà anh mất cô không đến được để mà chia buồn lắm.
Seeing the real-life impact Anthony Bourdain had here is nothing short of touching. Since that time, she's published her own book giving away all her recipes. And droves of curious travelers and hungry locals still stop by between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day. Just don't come late, because when it's gone, it's gone. With each place we visited and each owner we spoke with, the story was always the same. This television host and his team, unknown to most locals, was humble, simple, and straightforward. He took the time to appreciate every nuance of this beautiful country, and he adored Vietnam for exactly what it is. Along the way, he made an impact that for some will last a lifetime.
That was amazing. Actually, my ex-partner, my friend, Chris Tran, he actually knows the lunch lady, so we went there. And he was actually the one that created her recipe book. And again, I will send it to you with the promise that you will donate $10 to Northwest Harvest. And I will send you, I'll give you a preview. I actually will give you a preview on the email that I sent you for the recipe for the lunch lady. That lunch lady is famous in Vietnam. So we are start of a new time with the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as vice president. We have a great new future. No more Trump. Thank God. Have a great day.